Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 2. Interviews. Executive's Evolutionary Status. Part 5. The remaining people to be interviewed were Diablo, Tensura, Carrera, Ultima, and their 4 subordinates. I thought it would be impossible to meet with all of them, so I would just dangerously go through with it here. Kufufufufu, is it finally my turn? How long I have waited for this moment. He was kicked out only yesterday afternoon, but he's being so dramatic. Don't be silly, Diablo. The decision has not been settled yet, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to have a meeting with Rimuru-sama first. A battered Carrera snapped at Diablo. Ultima agreed with her. That right. I haven't given up yet, either. I don't think you should run away from this. She was also covered in scars, and looking at her injuries, it was a wonder that she was still standing. I mean, their clothes were part of them, so the fact that they still weren't fixed suggested that they were badly injured. And yet, they were still fighting like they were just fine. Demons really are tough. Stop that. It is disrespectful to fight in front of Rimuru-sama. Tensura intervened, and things finally quieted down. By the way, Tensura is very graceful. She had prepared a cup of tea for me, not caring about the 3 of us who were quarreling. Her clothes were in perfect order, as if showing the difference in sophistication. So, Rimuru-sama. Regarding the matter of firing Diablo and choosing one of us to be your second secretary, unfortunately, we have not come to a decision yet. What shall we do? I didn't think there was even such a thing. Perhaps, leaving the demons for the end was a mistake. Even if Xian hadn't given me unnecessary work, I still had to report to King Gazel. I should have taken care of these troublesome problems first. That's what I thought, but it was too late now. I didn't have much time left, so I would have to use force. Actually, we don't have enough time for a leisurely meeting. Not to mention calling in your subordinates. That won't be necessary. I don't think it's necessary. It's much too good for them. Yeah. If you need any information on my men, I'll report it. That's right. I wouldn't want something to cut into my time with Rimuru-sama. No one under my command would be so foolish. All 4 of them replied at the same time, with big smiles on their faces. Oh. I had no choice but to reply. CL also said that there was no need to call in all the demons. The reason was that Diablo and the others had said that they all answered with, "Please do whatever you want." CL already knew this, but to me it seemed like they were just ignoring all the others' wishes. I forced myself to accept that it was for the purpose of managing my subordinates. With that thought in mind, I managed to convince myself. The first of the 4 to be interviewed was, of course, Diablo. He had kicked out the remaining 3 from the room and was happily sitting across from me. Name. Diablo. Existence points. 6,666,666. Race. Divine Demon. 7 Primordials. Devil Lord. Blessing. Rimuru's Blessing. Title. Magic Lord. Magic. Dark Magic. Elemental Magic. Skill. Ultimate Skill. Temptation King Azazel. Resistance. Physical Attack Nullification. Abnormal Condition Nullification. Mental Attack Nullification. Natural Effects Nullification. Holy Demonic Attack Resistance. You're just so weird. Was what I thought. The fact that his numbers were so organized was like admitting that he did something. But since CL didn't say anything, I was too lazy to further pursue it. After all, I still think Diablo is the strongest of all my subordinates. His existence value is overwhelming, and his resistances are perfect. Diablo's Temptation King Azazel includes the abilities: Thought Acceleration, Universal Perception, Demon Lord Hockey, Space-Time Manipulation, Multidimensional Barrier, All of Creation, Punitive Control, Charm Control, and World of Temptation. It was a skill that could do almost the same things as me. He seemed to have wanted to boast about it for a long time now, so he explained it to me in detail with great enthusiasm and care. CL also seemed satisfied with Diablo's perfect comprehension. I can't actually utilize my skills without CL's help, so Diablo is actually stronger than me. His magicule count is high, his level is high, and the quality of his skill is also high. An all-around excellent demon, versatile in all aspects. Why he was my subordinate remained a mystery to me. Despite his battle-obsessed tendencies and being a bit too clingy with me, this guy's unfathomable strength was always very reliable. Now that he's evolved, I was curious to see how a mock battle with Zijin would turn out. I'm sure it would be an interesting fight. Also, Benimaru was usually pretty reserved when fighting, as if holding himself back. But once he got serious, he would burn everything up before the fight even began. In the labyrinth, one could fight fully without having to worry about survival, except Benimaru would probably not agree to it because it would expose his hand. In terms of attribute conflicts, water was stronger than fire, so Zijin had an advantage over Benimaru. But the answer could only be known after an actual battle. Well, there's really no need to decide on superiority or inferiority though. If Benimaru, Diablo, and Zijin were the top 3 fighters of my entourage, then there would be no disputes about it. That was it for Diablo. Also, it seemed that in addition to Venom, Gadra had officially become his disciple. Disciple? Yes. Now that he is my servant, you will not have to worry about his betrayal. I thought that he would be fine anyway, but now I was definitely relieved. Gadra was bound as a guardian of the labyrinth, so he couldn't be forced to do chores in a big way, but Diablo didn't seem to mind. He seemed to think of his disciples in a different way than his usual subordinates. That's good, but why did you decide to take him? Yes, this man's faith in Rimuru-sama is still lacking, but his quest for magic is real. He did have some merit for a human being, so I thought I would teach him personally and intervene in his mystic art reincarnation. So, shamefully, he almost died in the last battle. It was an act of disobedience to Rimuru-sama's order, so I reincarnated him as a demon to prevent that from happening. For some strange reason, he became some unheard of race known as a metal demon. Diablo stopped talking at this point and looked at me, as if asking for clarification. I have no idea. What did I do? Oh, I interfered. What do you mean? Oh. This is why I thought we needed to have a private meeting as well, but it looks like you've really done a lot. I really wish I had thought more about it. This metal demon ray sounded kind of like a repeat of Beretta. Please be rest assured about that. It is a completely different concept. That's fine, I guess. It really isn't a problem to me, but it's just that I find it troublesome. I guess I interfered a little. I had no choice but to answer that way, so I told him honestly. Instead, Diablo was so excited that we ended up talking for a while. To sum up, Diablo also liked Gadra. That's why he had promised to include Gadra and his lineage in case something happened to him. It was well known that Gadra was a magic fanatic. He was the master of Majin Raisin and was even willing to become a demon to satisfy his intellectual curiosity. Since he was such a man, as long as he didn't cause me any trouble, I would let him do as he pleased. I didn't dislike the old man either, so I judged that there was no problem. However, it would be uncomfortable if he turned out to be like a Dahlman, so I would have to declare a prohibition on overly faithful hearts. Just because he was Diablo's disciple did not mean he could have identical beliefs. I would firmly reject it. From now on, he is your responsibility, so take good care of him. From my perspective, Gadra-sensei was very much an elder, and while I don't speak in a tone that is quite appropriate for elders, Diablo was much older. The notion of age had to crumble, because Diablo was so old that the concept of the word old would collapse. In this way, Diablo now had 2 disciples. As soon as Diablo bowed and left the room, Tensura entered in his place. She took a seat across from me with a graceful demeanor. I wasn't planning on it, but I suppose I could ask her to be my secretary. Oops, no. Doing that would mean appointing Diablo as a diplomatic marshal, and then he'd definitely go out of control. I did want to add unnecessary problems, so I'd just keep things the way they were. Besides, I had a favor to ask of Tensura. Just as I was wondering what to say, she presented me with a document. It contained information on Tensura's subordinates. Name, Moss. Existence points, 1,079,397. Race, Demon Peer, Archduke class. Blessing, Blancs, Primordial Whites, lineage. Title, The Empress's Confidant. Magic, Dark Magic. Elemental Magic. Skill, Unique Skill. Collector. Resistance. Physical Attack Nullification. Abnormal Condition Nullification. Mental Attack Nullification. Natural Effects Nullification. Holy Demonic Attack Resistance. Name, Xian. Existence points, 286, 596. Race, Demon Peer, Viscount class. Blessing, Blancs, Primordial Whites, lineage. Title, The Empress's Secretary. Magic, Dark Magic. Elemental Magic. Skill, Unique Skill. Recorder. Resistance. Physical Attack Nullification. Abnormal Condition Nullification. Mental Attack Nullification. Natural Effects Nullification. If you add this to the information that only I could read, this was what it looked like. Neither Moss nor Xian were directly involved in the previous battles. Therefore, they had not fallen into crisis nor into CL's clutches. By the way, what about Tensura? Name, Tensura. Existence points, 3,333,124. Race, Divine Demon. 7 Primordials, Devil Lord. Blessing. Rimuru's Blessing. Title. Killer Lord. Magic, Dark Magic. Elemental Magic. Skill. Ultimate Skill. Death King Belial. Resistance. Physical Attack Nullification. Abnormal Condition Nullification. Mental Attack Nullification. Natural Effects Nullification. Holy Demonic Attack Resistance. Compared to the beginning of the war, her existence value had increased incomparably. Even compared to when she fought Velgrund on the airship, it seemed to have increased more than threefold. The amount of magicule seems to have increased a lot, right? Yes. It's a shame, because it would have been a more interesting demonstration if it had been done in time for the battle with Velgrund-sama. Fighting is not how you have fun, is it? Well, it's probably useless to say that. Once again, I was reminded that in combat, it was not the quantity, but the quality that mattered. In this case, combat experience had played a bigger role than the amount of magicules. The reason why Tensura was able to fight so well against Velgrund was because they were evenly matched in terms of combat ability. If the battle had gone on for a long time, she would have been defeated, but since she was only stalling for time, she was able to manage. The fact that Tensura's magicules had increased means that her fighting ability had also greatly increased. It was all very encouraging, but it also meant that I was now responsible for keeping an eye on her to make sure she didn't go out of control. For now, I would leave it to Diablo, but I was also thinking a little more attention should be paid in that aspect. Still, Death King Belial. As befits Tensura, it was a skill with a dangerous scent. As for the powers it contains, it included thought acceleration, universal perception, demon lord hockey, space-time manipulation, multidimensional barrier, all of creation, life domination, and world after death. This was also a world system skill. It was also a world after death, which I would rather not ever experience. I'm scared, so I'll leave the management to CL. You mentioned a private meeting, so there should be something to say that cannot be discussed publicly, correct? What exactly is the content? After Tensura provided the information on her subordinates, Moss and Sien, she then asked the question very clearly. She was quite perceptive, which was very helpful. I changed my mind and decided to confide in her about one of my problems. It was about the meeting with Masayuki and the others that was supposed to take place tomorrow morning. I might be reading too much into it, but I wanted to talk to you about it. I'm supposed to meet with Masayuki and the others, so I'm wondering about what to do. I see, so it's about the treatment of the Empire. I was surprised how quickly she understood everything. That's right. Masayuki seems to be troubled, but it's difficult to respond to such a sudden request. Xian probably didn't think about it that much, but if Masayuki was the reincarnation of Emperor Rudra, it would not be so easy to become an emperor. In the first place, we didn't know where the current Emperor Rudra, though now transformed into Michael, had disappeared to. Even if Masayuki declares himself emperor, that is to say, I don't think Masayuki is willing to do so. It would also be strange if my country suddenly supported him. What's more, Michael's power, the castle guard, was unbreakable as long as there were people who believed in Rudra. In other words, we had to think about how to deal with the imperial subjects at the same time. I really wished I had more time to think about this. Explaining it to King Gazel would also be complicated, and that honestly felt even more difficult to deal with. As I've said many times, I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't say that. If that's the case, then let me join the meeting. The East, where the Empire is located, used to be my domain, so I'm sure I'll be able to serve as a diplomatic officer. Oh, how reliable. I couldn't just leave this to CL. I might be able to verbalize CL solutions, but how to actually instruct the subordinates would still have to be left to the locals. In the first place, even if an opinion was absolutely correct, we would have no choice but to reject the proposal if the imperial side did not accept it. It might have worked if the empire had been made a vassal state, but otherwise, we wouldn't be able to interject too much about how other countries operate. In this respect, Tensura would be able to respond flexibly. Tensura had a proven track record with the Western nations, and once the policy was set, I felt comfortable leaving it to her. In that case, I'll be counting on you tomorrow morning. I understand, leave it to me. Tensura's bewitching smile was so encouraging that it made me feel a little better. That was all I had to say, so I stood up to see Tensura off. Rimuru-sama, there is one thing I would like to report to you as well. As you may remember, Rimuru-sama received a petition for life from Kalgurio, one of the Empire's generals. Tensura's words reminded me of that too. It would be a bit of a hassle, but it was not impossible. Alright. Then now. I'm glad Tensura remembered. This kind of attention to detail was one of the reasons why I found Tensura so reliable. In order to complete my work before dinner, I accompanied Tensura to the research facility. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.